Hello and welcome to the Minimum Competence episode for Monday, September 23rd, 2024. I'm your host for today, Andrew Leahy, a tax and technology attorney from New Jersey. On today's episode, we cover Ryan Routh's alleged attempt to assassinate Trump, the FTC's lawsuit over insulin prices, an AI copyright appeal, and ethics breaches at Jackson Walker LLP. Let's remember, autumn carries more gold in its pocket than all of the other seasons combined. And read today's legal news. On this day in legal history, September 23rd, 1901, the trial of Leon Czolgosz began for the assassination of President William McKinley. Czolgosz, an anarchist, had shot McKinley on September 6th at the Pan-American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. Despite efforts to save him, McKinley died 8 days later from gangrene caused by the bullet wounds. The trial was swift, lasting only 8 hours over 2 days, as Czolgosz had already confessed to the crime. His defense team, appointed by the court, argued that Czolgosz was insane, but he refused to cooperate with his lawyers or plead insanity. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, including eyewitness testimonies and the fact that Czolgosz shot McKinley at point-blank range in a public setting. The jury deliberated for less than 30 minutes before finding him guilty of first-degree murder. Czolgosz was sentenced to death and was executed by electric chair on October 29, 1901. His trial and execution sparked discussions about the influence of anarchism in the U.S. and led to increased efforts to suppress political radicalism in the early 20th century. From a presidential assassin from history to a would-be modern-day presidential assassin, Ryan W. Routh, a 58-year-old suspect accused of attempting to assassinate former U.S. President Donald Trump, is set to appear in court today. Routh allegedly hid near Trump's Florida golf course on September 15th, pointing a rifle through the tree line where Trump played golf. Although he did not fire a shot and lacked a direct line of sight to Trump, who was several hundred yards away, Routh was charged with 2 gun-related crimes: possession of a firearm as a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. Additional charges may follow. A Secret Service agent spotted the weapon and fired in Routh's direction, causing him to flee. He was later arrested on a nearby highway. Prosecutors are expected to argue for his detention, citing public safety concerns. The FBI is investigating the incident as an apparent assassination attempt ahead of the upcoming November presidential election. Authorities have not yet disclosed a motive, though Routh, a convicted felon with a history of supporting Ukraine, previously made statements in a self-published book suggesting that Trump could be a target for assassination. Cell phone data suggests Routh may have been in the area for more than 12 hours before being apprehended. An appeals court panel recently reviewed procedural issues in Stephen Thaler's attempt to copyright an AI-generated image, raising concerns that the court may avoid larger questions about AI and copyright law. Thaler argued that his AI, the creativity machine, autonomously created the work in question, but the U.S. Copyright Office rejected his application and a lower court dismissed his case. The court found that Thaler had waived the argument that he was the author by continuing to claim the machine was the creator. During the appeal, the judges suggested that Thaler's argument might be barred since his appellate brief did not challenge the lower court's finding that he had waived his authorship claim. Legal experts fear this focus on procedural flaws could prevent the court from addressing significant issues about the role of human creativity in AI-generated works. If the court rules that AI-generated works cannot be copyrighted, it could have far-reaching effects, leaving AI-generated content like images and text unprotected and placing them in the public domain. The court's decision may not close the door on AI-assisted works, but it raises questions about where the line is drawn between human and machine-generated creativity. The case highlights ongoing uncertainties about how copyright law will adapt to AI's growing role in creative industries. The key legal issue here is the court's focus on procedural waivers, which may limit the scope of the ruling and leave broader questions about AI and copyright unresolved. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, has sued the 3 largest pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, United Health's Optum, CVS Health's Caremark, and Cigna's Express Scripts, accusing them of inflating insulin prices to gain larger rebates from pharmaceutical companies. The FTC claims that these PBMs steered patients towards higher-priced insulin by excluding cheaper alternatives from coverage, harming those with coinsurance or deductibles who couldn't benefit from the rebate. Together, these 3 companies control 80% of U.S. prescriptions. The PBMs denied the allegations, arguing that their practices have lowered insulin costs for businesses and patients. The case represents a significant step in the Biden administration's push to lower drug prices, particularly insulin, which has seen soaring costs over the past decade. FTC Deputy Director Rahul Rao labeled the PBMs as medication gatekeepers, accusing them of profiting at the expense of diabetic patients. The lawsuit did not target insulin manufacturers like Eli Lilly, Sanofi, and Novo Nordisk, but criticized their role in the system. The drug makers supported reforms to lower patient costs and highlighted their programs to cap insulin prices at $35. The FTC suit aims to address broader concerns about the U.S. healthcare system structure and the rising cost of life-saving medications like insulin. Jackson Walker LLP is facing disciplinary action after a federal judge found the Texas law firm breached its ethical duties by failing to disclose a secret relationship between one of its attorneys, Elizabeth Freeman, and former Houston bankruptcy judge David R. Jones. Judge Marvin Isger issued a scathing letter on Friday criticizing the firm for concealing the affair, which he said violated professional responsibilities and, quote, defiled the very temple of justice. Isger recused himself from cases involving the firm following this recommendation. The relationship came to light after Freeman, a former partner at Jackson Walker, continued to see Jones despite telling the firm in 2021 that the relationship had ended. Isger accused the firm of knowingly withholding this information from clients and the court, calling it an inconceivable ethical breach. The U.S. trustee is now attempting to recover up to $18 million in fees earned by Jackson Walker in cases overseen by Jones while he was dating Freeman. The disciplinary case has been referred to Judge Lee H. Rosenthal, and Jackson Walker faces potential penalties, including disbarment or suspension. The firm denies violating ethical rules and claims Freeman misled them. However, Isger emphasized that the firm's decision to protect itself at the expense of its clients and professional obligations was intolerable. A public hearing is expected to follow, giving Jackson Walker a chance to respond to the charges. And with that, I thank you so much for listening to Minimum Competence, your daily news podcast for lawyers. If you're looking for more than minimum competence, links to further reading on all the topics touched on today are in the show notes. And reviews go a long way towards helping new listeners to find our show. If you have a moment, leave a rating or review on your podcast player. We'd sure appreciate it. And if you know someone that might be interested in the story we cover, consider sending them the episode. But remember, nothing here should be construed as legal advice because it is certainly not that. Minimum Competence is available at minimumcomp.com and wherever you get your finely crafted podcasts. If you haven't checked out the website in a while, give it a look. There are complete transcripts and resources for each episode and its corresponding segments, as well as an opportunity to receive new episodes in email, newsletter, form. We'll see you back here tomorrow, and until then, remember, the trees are about to show us how lovely endings can be.